What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. Here, of course, with the weekly news update for the latest news and updates coming out of the GAA. And of course, obviously, during the weekend, as we all know, the lockdown got very much extended until May the 5th, which of course very much means that all GAA activities will be postponed until then, at the very minimum. And of course, in this video, we are going to look at some of the reaction to that. We'll be talking a bit about a top HSE doctor who has actually come out and said that the likelihood of the GAA even coming back whatsoever this year could be in very much doubt. It could very much not happen whatsoever. And there was also some reports in regards to how some clubs abroad have dealt with this situation in both the US, New York, of course, in the likes of Italy and Spain. And of course, the GAA is set for a remote special congress this Friday where they're going to outline and discuss all possible eventualities of what could happen with this GAA season, what will happen with the national football leagues and national hurling leagues, what will happen with club action, how will the All-Ireland Championship resume, or how will it start this year, which way will they go about it. And of course, as well, lads, I'm also going to be reviewing some comments from the last video last week. I'm also going to be looking as well at some reactions over Twitter and social media. This is something I'm also going to do quite frequently, regularly, every week from now on, just because I want to engage more with you lads who do comment on the videos. And of course, I want everyone who does watch these videos to be involved as possible. So yeah, lads, we will start off by talking a bit about an article that actually came out this morning, and this was in relation to a top HSE doctor very much warning that sporting events could very much be in doubt because of various summer gatherings this year. Now, this very much relates into the fact that obviously when this pandemic is gone and everything goes back to normal, that, you know, we can't just go back to normal, can we? Because if everyone just goes back to normal, if everyone just gathers on beaches, on cinemas, in sporting events, nightclubs, all this various activities, that there could very much be a second spike, and we need to be very careful with how we resume our normal day-to-day activities. And one of those things is obviously sporting events, and obviously the GAA very much relates to that. This came out from Dr. Colm Henry, came out in a number of newspapers and all over social media this morning. Dr. Colm Henry has warned that allowing people back into stadiums after flattening the curve could see another spike in cases. He also went on to say, while we may be beating that curve down and even crushing it, hopefully now in the coming weeks, if we all buckle down, if suddenly we all decided to congregate again on beaches, stadiums, football stadiums, marches, and whatever else, it would go rapidly up again. We've learned that not just here in Ireland but abroad, and he does make a lot of sense. And this is something that I've even been saying to friends and family, you know, when we've been talking about this whole situation, because let's be perfectly honest, everyone is talking about this at the moment. And one thing I've been saying is, you know, we can't just go back to normal. The reality that on May 6th that we're all just gonna back to normal, back to work, back to going to the beaches, everyone's just gonna go out and go crazy. It's just not gonna happen. There would still have to be some sort of restrictions. Social distancing would still very much have to happen. People would probably be allowed back to work, but there would probably be a limit on how many people would be allowed to work in a particular space. And all sporting events and all large gatherings would still very much be banned, in my opinion. And of course, Gaelic football and hurling very much fits into that. Now, obviously, what would that mean? Would that mean that all matches would have to be played behind closed doors? Would that mean that the GAA Championship season might not even happen whatsoever? And that's even what some people are even pondering from this article, that potentially we might not even see a championship this season. Now, if they did go ahead and play every match behind closed doors, they could potentially do that, but let's not forget you're having 30 players on the pitch. You're also having all the players on the bench. You're having camera crew, all the managers, the coaching staff. You're still literally going to probably have up to 100 people playing in a game, and that's still quite a large gathering. So, and let's not forget that a lot of these players and coaches and managers all still have day-to-day jobs as well. It would even be more of a risk. It's not like they could play the matches and then go into self-isolation like they've talked about in other sports. They wouldn't be able to do that in the GAA because obviously a lot of these players still have their day-to-day jobs. Now, another article, of course, that did come out, which is very much in response to the GAA's plans and procedures moving forward. They are set for a remote special congress, as summer shake-up looms. So a special Congress of the GAA will be remotely held next Friday, which would pave the way for expected major changes in this year's Gaelic football and hurling inter-county championships. So very much what will happen here. This was reported by Owen Ryan of RTE, and he very much went into the details of what could happen in the GAA this year. It is widely expected that at a minimum the round robin hurling provincial championships and football quarterfinals, aka the Super 8s would not happen, would be played as knockout ties, in other words. So basically what we talked about in the last video, everything would be a straight knockout. There would be no backdoor system involved. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. Obviously I will make a video in my response to that on Friday. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what the GAA come up with in regards to that. Now there also was a good article that came out by John Fogarty, and he went on to say that could be October or November before we see All Ireland finals, which is very interesting. And he also went on to say that potentially what could happen is that club action could resume in the summer. They could serve as like a pre-season, and then the championship would actually start in September. Now that's kind of interesting. We have to prioritise the clubs first. And this would serve well because obviously the players would have a pre-season under their belt. They could go into the championship in September, straight knockout tournament, and then have your All-Ireland final in November. Now this is obviously just speculation. Now, of course, as we are well aware, this pandemic is spreading all across Europe, and obviously there are a number of GAA clubs that are abroad in the likes of New York, Spain and Italy, and they have of course been affected as well. If we look at this article here that came out on the RTE, how the coronavirus pandemic is impacting GAA clubs in Madrid, Rome and New York. And yeah, it went on to say that a lot of these clubs have of course, suspended all their activities for very much for the rest of the year. All tournaments have been cancelled. For example, in Madrid, the Madrid Harps GAA club were European champions last year and had grown very well over the past coming years. Obviously, the European championships have been cancelled, and it does mean all their players have are not playing at the moment. All GAA activity has been suspended, which is obviously going to have huge impacts for them, potentially financially, and obviously moving forward. Same, of course, in Rome and same in New York. Now, obviously, there were a few comments on the last week's video that I did put up as well, when I was talking a bit about the National Football and Hurling Leagues to be scrapped, and obviously the GAA to reintroduce the old school format. So there were two comments on that last video. The first one was from Brian Donahue, who said leagues must not be scrapped, Meath must be relegated. I do get what you mean there. I mean, Meath technically were relegated. They actually were confirmed as one of the counties that were relegated before all this even happened. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately nobody obviously saw this coming. Nobody had any ideas that this was going to happen, and it is what it is. I mean, the only kind of situation you can really do is null and void the league, unfortunately. I don't personally agree with it myself. At the end of the day, what other options is there? There's nothing we can do, really. I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. There was also a comment here from Gallo Glass, pretty long comment, but basically what he was saying was that obviously this year's championship could potentially exclude London and New York, and that's obviously a good point as well. Northern Ireland will probably come out at nearly the same time as the Republic. I actually think an interesting point worth mentioning is obviously what will happen with the 6 counties. A lot will depend on how the UK are dealing with this pandemic as well, and if the UK are very much at a different level to the Republic of Ireland. So if they, if cases continuously grow there but actually get better in Ireland, and Ireland starts to flatten the curve before the UK. Bear in mind, I'm not a medical expert in any ways possible, but I mean, how would that work? Could we have a championship, a 26 county championship without the 6 counties? I feel like that would be very controversial. I don't even know if that is even possible. But I do think it is worth keeping in mind that a lot will depend on how the UK are actually dealing with this pandemic as well. Now, we obviously also went on to mention that he would actually go back to the 1984 Centenary Cup, which was an open draw. Now, as far as I'm aware, I did look into this myself. This wasn't the same All-Ireland, this wasn't the All-Ireland Championship this year, but this was simply a tournament that the GAA created to mark 100 years of Gaelic games. It was an open draw, so all 32 counties were placed in a draw and all of them could face each other. There was no restrictions on seeding. It was basically the first round was the round of 32, the second round was the round of 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals and final. That tournament was actually won by Meath. They beat Monaghan in the final, and interestingly enough, Dublin were actually beaten by Westmeath in the first game. Now obviously this was back in 1984. I wasn't around back then, so I don't know who was probably the best teams back then. I do know that I think Dublin actually won that year's All-Ireland, if I'm correct, or Kerry won it, I'm not sure. If that was to happen this year, it would be very interesting. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even approve of the seeding. I'd probably actually go with an open draw, because to be honest, yes, you could go with seeding, but how would you do the seeding? Would you do the top 8 Super 8s? Would you do the provincial winners? Would you do last year's All-Ireland semi-finals? Would you base it off the league? It's really hard to know how it would go, and to be honest, just having an open draw, let's just do it for 1 year, and it might make things more exciting. You know, we might see counties that never reach All-Ireland semi-finals, that never reach All-Ireland quarter-finals or finals, actually get to those events, and it might actually make for a special day out for some of the lesser counties. We still probably prefer the old system of having the provincial championships and having no backdoor and just kind of going about it that way. But actually, if we were to do an open draw, it would certainly make an interesting tournament as well. And if it was a situation where we have to go ahead and do that, I would certainly be fine with it. Anyway guys, that is gonna be the end of the video. Yeah lads, do let me know down in the comments below what you think, obviously with regards to some of the latest stories that have come out. What do you lads think will happen with the GAA moving forward? Now obviously not a lot has changed from last week, and probably next week not a lot will change either. But yeah, do feel free to drop any comments or questions. I will answer them and respond to them in the next video. It doesn't have to be in relation to anything we've covered today. It can be anything GAA related. Feel free, and yeah, I will get back to you in the next video. Anyway lads, my name has been Aaron, and I'm gonna wrap this up here. And yeah lads, stay safe, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Good luck.